Joshua was a young man in the service of Moses who went on to lead the Israelites to conquer the Promised Land. Paul instructed Timothy and Titus to instruct others in the relationships between young and older Christians. So how do we teach our young to be the future leaders of the church? Who are going to be our elders? Who are going to be our deacons, our evangelists, and our teachers? These questions and more we're going to answer today on today's episode of the Sawtooth Podcast, Leadership on the Ledge. Broadcasting from beautiful Castle Rock, Colorado. Welcome to this episode of the Sawtooth Podcast. This is our first ever guest episode, and we have two guests today. I'm so excited. We have Roy Johnson, the Executive Director from Lads to Leaders and Leaderettes, and we have with us a area representative, Kurt Hewitt from the Windsor congregation, and he is their minister there, and they're just a great congregation, and we're so excited to have both of you with us here today. How's everybody doing?
Great.
Thanks
Awesome.
for the invite.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm thrilled to death that we got you guys here. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention our very own tech guru, editor, and producer, who you can't see because he's behind the camera, Tyler King. Say hi, Tyler.
Hey,
Hello.
There you go. His signature, hello. All right. So let's dive into this. Roy, before we get started discussing Lads Leaders and some of the details, do you think you could share with our followers a little bit about your background and your role with L2L?
Okay. I grew up and was one of the first boys in Lads to Leaders. We started in 1968, which that dates me. And it was really a preacher training class then. It was like a Timothy class at that time, a public speaking class. And I went to Alabama Christian College, and I went on a Lads to Leaders scholarship, and I got assigned a work study job of being the driver for Dr. Zorn, who was the founder of Lads to Leaders, who ran Lads to Leaders. And so when school would finish on Friday, I would drive him to whatever state, whatever church, and be there and watch and be part of his training programs he was putting on. And for that reason, probably, I always preached at one church or another, but I had an occupation also besides preaching, and that was I was an executive with the Boy Scouts of America. And in management for them, I traveled around the country, visiting and running scout councils from the Northeast to the South and other locations. And I really think the Lads Leaders background all fit together in the leadership training that was going on there. And then when Dr. Zorn retired from Lads to Leaders, he did a little arm twisting and encouraged me to leave the BSA and to come back home to Lads to Leaders. And so that's where I've been since 2003 and loving it.
All right. Thank you. Kurt, why don't you mention kind of your affiliation with L2L?
Well, as you mentioned, I'm the preacher in Windsor, Colorado, which is just about an hour north of here. Well, about an hour north of Denver. About an hour and 20 minutes, right, Matthew? So we started Lads about 4 years ago. Our first year was at Dallas. But we had about 10 kids that first year, and they came back pretty fired up. So that was our first year with Lads, and we had wanted, Lads here in Colorado, and finally you guys started it here, which has been a blessing. But yeah, that's how we began. We began with just about 10 kids, and just the excitement and the momentum of it just kind of grew.
So Roy mentioned he's pretty much been with it since it started.
Mm-hmm.
What was the catalyst for Windsor? How did Windsor even hear about it and get started with it?
Well, that's a good question. That actually goes way back. When I first started in Windsor, I was kind of youth minister / preacher. And we wanted to take the kids, our first youth group years ago. I can't even remember how long ago that was. But we wanted to take our first youth group there, and it just didn't work out. So I'd heard about lads and the good things that were going on, and thought it'd be great to do that with our congregation, but we weren't ready at the time. Of course, we'd had to, fly out, somewhere, and we couldn't afford it at the time, being a small congregation. So,
Okay.
but this is probably about 15 years ago when I first heard of lads.
Oh, wow. Okay. Great. Roy, since this is a leadership podcast, would you mind sharing with our followers the most significant leadership challenge that you have faced as the executive
Glad you got
director
that one, brother.
for L2L?
Well, instead of one, I think I will go with two. But one would be trying to step in and take over the role of the CEO or the director of Labs to Leaders after Dr. Zorn was the founder and had run the program for about 30 years. And you stepping in behind somebody who has set this up and done such a great job. If by comparison, if it was football, you like to come in behind somebody who was losing coach, not somebody who was doing things great. And, so therein lies the challenge there. Later on, one of the bigger challenges has been to maintain our standards, our consistency, our Bible base, and also grow the program. And growing it, in 2003, when I took over, we had 2 convention sites. Today we have 10 in the States and many international sites. But to try to maintain our standards while at the same time growing the program.
Okay. Well, thanks for sharing those. And just for clarity, at least 3 of us at this table are SEC football fans. We have Matthew, a volunteer fan on the end. We have Roy, an Auburn fan. How about you, Kurt? Do you?
Not much college.
Okay, there we go. Not much college, and we won't talk about my team. We'll move on. So, Roy, we probably have some followers who are not familiar with L2L. So would you mind sharing with them a little bit about the history, the organization, the purpose and the mission, those kinds of things?
Sure. I like to use the little 5, like the little boy says, give me 5 or something. You go up and say, give me 5, and some 5 things that really make Labs Leaders special. One is it's all ages. We believe that just separating the youth from the congregation is not always good. There are times the youth needs to go do their youth things, but they also need to be tied to the church. And that includes the senior citizens and the whole age group where they're doing some things together. And the ages of Labs Leaders are 3 to 103. I mean, it's everybody, the little ones through the senior citizens. And so they're all ages. Something else is the year-round aspect. And yes, we have an annual event that we call Labs Leaders Convention. Convention meaning convening, coming together. And that is an award ceremony. It's also a chance to do Bible Bowl and other events that go on there. But the majority of Labs Leaders happens at home in the local church, where they're leading songs, they're giving speeches, they're doing Good Samaritan projects, they're taking care of the bulletin board, they're doing things that help support the local church. And then they come to Labs Leaders and they get their recognition for doing those things. And we also provide a wide range of curriculum and materials to support the work that we're doing. And then the 4th thing is proven results. A study that was done several years ago across several states was dealing with retention and keeping boys and girls faithful to the church after high school graduation. And generally speaking, we do not do a great job in the Lord's church of doing that. While Labs Leaders is not a magic pill, it's not just something that takes care of everything. The retention rate and the average retention rate of the churches that were surveyed then was about 85%. And one church I know of has a 92% retention rate, the Hoover Church in Birmingham, Alabama. That being said, that it doesn't mean that they just participated in Labs Leaders for a few minutes or went to one convention. That means for several years they were involved in the program, involved with the studying, with the mentoring, all of those things together. It's not just a magic pill that happens automatically. And the other thing is the consistency. trying to remain true to God's Word, and as my friend Charlie Hodge used to say, stay out of the ditches, and but follow God's Word, but stay out of the ditches and be consistent in that area. And that's what our challenge has been. And success-wise, we've been so blessed. There are over 20,000 participants every year. And you add it up over the years, over 250,000 people have gone through Labs to Leaders. So we're blessed.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we are.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a smidge.
Yeah, like in what I mentioned earlier that we had, we started with 10. Well, last year we had 37 signed up. So,
Of all
that
ages.
was pre-COVID there, so that kind of put a damper on things. But we have, this year, Windsor, we've got, I want to say we have close to 30 signed up, but that might change too. So,
What you said about the all ages also, it's not just youth, as you were pointing out, even at our event, even at convention, you're having about slightly over half our adults who are there supporting what's going on.
Yeah.
And one of the things is that the adults can actually participate in several of the year-round events with the kids. I'm thinking, Centurion of Scripture, where they memorize 100 verses, and that's all done at the local level. It's all verified at the local level, and we even recognize the adults at the awards ceremony at the convention. So it's definitely intergenerational. It's every single generation. Now, you're the executive director. What do you have in the way of support?
Okay. We have a very small staff. We have 6 people, including myself, that work for Labs to Leaders. And we work full-time. I travel a great deal, and there are 2 other men that also do the same thing. And then we have 3 ladies, and they do the editing of our materials. They do our sales, our bookkeeping. And we're just very small when it comes to overhead and spending most of our time related to program. Our office happens to be at Fulton University in Montgomery, Alabama, and that is an opportunity we were offered, but we have great relationships with other Christian colleges too.
I notice in your pile there that you might have some curriculum or
I
something
do.
in there to share
Sure
with our
do.
followers, are they?
Right. One I'll mention first is our newest event in Labs to Leaders, which is called SOAR. And this is a book that was written by Phil Sanders, who does In Search of the Lord's Way. And SOAR is a book on personal evangelism, and it's for teens and it's for adults. And he deals with the why. Why do we need to be evangelistic? And then he talks about methods and ways to invite your neighbor to church, invite your schoolmate to church, how to bring up the subject of the Bible with someone, and what are some common objections you're going to get, what are the best answers. And this book is designed for adults and teens to study, and the whole idea is to equip them better for when the opportunity arises for them to try to encourage others to come to church and try to teach others the Bible. So SOAR is our newest event, and I just love the SOAR event.
Did you, were those mailed out to the congregations?
This has just come out, matter of fact. And so this, you're seeing something that's hot off the press
I
right
was
here.
going to say, we need to get some of those.
Yes, absolutely. And by the way, all of these things, you can go to our Labs to Leaders L2L website, and we have a section where we have this. We've just added this to it.
Good.
And the other new thing we've just added is our speech and debate book. And this is written by an elder, a shepherd at a church in Chattanooga, Tennessee, who has taught speech and debate all of his life in high school and college. And Matthew, you relate to this too. One of the lessons he taught, one whole lesson is on nonverbal communication.
Yeah.
And all of us being preaching and public speaking, he points out it's not just memorizing something, it's communicating with your audience, the pause, the eye contact, and he's teaching youth and adults how to stand before others, and then a section on debate, how to put together debate and how to prepare for debate. But this is another one of our newest things. Something we do every year. is a Pearl study book. And it's based on our Bible Bowl book. Whatever our Bible Bowl book happens to be, we do 13 lessons on material that you would preach from that Bible Bowl book. Now, Bible Bowl is a great thing, and Last Leaders has the largest Bible Bowl in the Church of Christ. And we love Bible Bowl, but somebody could be very successful in Bible Bowl and still not connect the dots. And these are the messages from that book that you want them to get besides the questions and answers. And so every year we have a new Pearl study book.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. So convention sites, you want to run through those real quick?
Okay. Convention sites, I'll start with the East Coast. We go with Orlando. And by the way, it's interesting. We have some churches who decide they would like to go to the Orlando convention that may be in the Northeast or other locations. For some reason, they prefer to go to Orlando, okay, in the spring.
Yeah.
Must like to drive.
Must like to drive, right. In Atlanta, Georgia, and there we're in Marriott Marquette, and they really enjoy the glass elevators. They're going up and down the side of the giant hotel. And then we have Nashville, Tennessee. There we're using the Gaylord property, Opryland, and that is the largest indoor hotel that's not a casino. And so that is our facility we use there, and our attendance there is close to 10,000 normally.
Oh, wow.
Then we have Louisville, Kentucky, and that's a good site that also attracts many from the northern direction. And this year we have a new site we are adding. We've had Memphis, Tennessee, but we're adding a new site this year, and that's Little Rock, Arkansas. And your home state there, Don.
Yeah.
And we're very excited about Little Rock. And of course, we mentioned Dallas already. Dallas is at the Gaylord Texan in Dallas, Texas. Gaylord, they're a grapevine actually right outside of Dallas. And then here we are in the great state of Colorado, and we have Colorado Springs. And Don can give you more information about our great property we have there. We also have convention in Fresno, California. And our newest is Mid-Atlantic, which will be Silver Springs, Maryland. And those are the ones in the States. But the largest one outside the United States happens to be in India. And India is very, very large, and they even have 2 a year because of the problem of so many people they have, which is a great problem to have there.
Wow.
And we're also in Romania, and we're also in the Philippines, right?
Yes, and going to Romania, going to their convention is 1 week after Easter because they use a different calendar, and they follow the Easter calendar, and not all conventions do, of course. But that being said, I was amazed to get there and see the same Bible Bowl questions. They were wearing the same Last Leader shirts. Everything was just like everywhere else in the States, which was just amazing for me.
Yeah. Now, our convention, Colorado, is a little bit smaller than the other conventions because we're still kind of in the early stages and we're still growing. So if you come to the Colorado convention, which is highly encouraged, it's in Colorado Springs, beautiful view of Pikes Peak. We'd love to have you join us. But one of the things that we do is, since we're smaller, we have less time that we need. So Friday, you come in, that's usually group registration and then the art events. Saturday is convention all day with all the other events, finished off with an awards ceremony that night, and then Sunday at 8 a.m. Those that stay will get together and we'll have a worship service that our congregation is responsible for putting together. Matthew's the one that makes sure that we have folks leading that. So, we want to invite everybody to join us for that. Kurt, how would a congregation get started?
Oh, my goodness. Call Roy.
Great answer.
Good answer.
Yeah. Oh, man, that's a good question. Yeah, we just, we just got started. When we heard about it and signed up and dove in.
Yep. You've got a group leader for the congregation. Absolutely. It does help to. Go ahead.
Well, I want to jump in if it's okay. Just back on and I think this is big from a especially for a smaller congregation like Windsor, the involvement aspect of it. This weekend, the ladies, they have set up a retreat for the young women. And so they're going to go to a hotel, and they're going to spend Friday night and Saturday going through the book of Hebrews for the young women in the congregation.
Oh, wow, that's great.
So, and what's really cool is the teachers, 4 or 5 of them, they're all parents. So back to your point about involvement and the importance of involvement, it really, really is a good thing for the whole congregation, has been for Windsor. So that's great. I mean, just another example of what Lads is doing.
Yeah, we've definitely seen the growth here at Castle Rock with those that have participated. Watching the kids grow, from year to year as they participate in those convention events. You mentioned kind of smaller congregations. So what do you see are some of the benefits for a smaller congregation? And Roy, maybe chime in with what you see for benefits for a larger congregation.
For us, what we're doing, and I don't think all congregations are doing this. Maybe they are, I don't know. But we use Wednesday nights for our preparation. Like we started 2 weeks ago. And I had the boys last week, Ron Mitchell and I. Ron and I are working with the boys on speech. So we started last week. So we use Wednesday nights. What we've found is it's helped involvement just in general. People show up. If the kids want to be there on Wednesday night, Mom and Dad are going to be there on Wednesday night. Yeah. So it helped, for us personally, it helped our attendance. I mean, you think 35 kids. We'd have 30 kids on a Wednesday night.
Wow.
So Mom and Dad would bring them there, and so attendance really shot up as well. So, and I don't know if larger congregations are doing that or not. Roy, I don't know.
Yes, all different methods. Some will do it even on Sunday morning during Bible classes, or some will have a special class Sunday afternoon. But Wednesday night is quite a popular time. Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, it's just worked good for our families.
Sure.
Sure. And
it kind of fits the life of your congregation. Yeah, absolutely.
I'd like to follow up on your question you asked about getting it started. And one thing I suggest is contact the Lads Leader's office. You'll be talking to me or whoever there, and let's send you some materials, some information. And with training, we're glad to come visit a church and show you how. But besides that, we have all type of videos and support material to help a church getting going. We do not expect them to do it on their own.
Yeah. Great. All right. Well, Matthew, you've been kind of quiet. Anything to add to the discussion today?
No, I just really appreciate the Lads to Leaders. It is kind of like an intergenerational ministry, what Roy was talking about, bringing everybody together. One of the things that we really saw in the Denver convention, and it was a huge blessing, was the unity that it brought to this area. Yep. And just having all different congregations coming together and worshiping together, participating together. It was just a really uplifting time because we get together less as local bodies of the Lord's church. So it was good to get together that weekend and just really share in the camaraderie that Christ brings us.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. And if you call Roy's office and for some reason nobody from his office is available on a weekend that you need, I'm here local and I'm happy to come and talk about L2L with the congregation in a class setting. If you're really desperate, I'll preach. And we'll get you started. And we'd love to get you guys started. We're reaching out to New Mexico. We're reaching out to West Texas.
Wyoming too.
Wyoming.
Yes, and Wyoming.
South Dakota. We're getting really a lot further advanced.
Yes, we are. And if you're following us from one of those states and you wanted to be like the first congregation from that state to join us, that'd be great. We would glad to bring you on. All right, we're coming to the end. Any final thoughts before we close this episode of the Sawtooth Podcast?
Well, I'm kind of like what Matthew said. I appreciate Lads. I mean, I've seen so much growth in our young people and just an excitement in the kids and the families. like I said, if the kids are excited, the parents are excited. But bringing the different generations together has been great. That's so important, and I just appreciate what Lads does for the future generations. We need that desperately in the church, so appreciate all the work you guys are doing. And
Appreciate you, and it does help build excitement and enthusiasm in the local church, and involvement is a key. You're getting people involved in so many ways, and then the dividends, the real payment is looking and seeing the growth. When you see some that a few years ago maybe would be afraid to lead a song or to make a talk, and you see them growing, and you think in some way you had a small part to deal with that.
We had that happen recently. We had a young man who was recently converted. He was baptized and from the community, and he wanted to do his first Devo, but he watched one of the other kids give one, and he said, "I don't think I could do that." And one of the parents said, "Oh, no, you can. They just been doing Lads to Leaders for many years." And you know what? He came to me. He goes, "Tell me more about this Lads to Leaders thing.
Yes.
I want to do it." Because he wanted to learn how to give a good talk. And so he signed up and he's going to participate. So when you have parents saying, "Oh, the reason this kid's so good at giving a devotional, Lads to Leaders," that really excites me.
Yes.
All right. Well, once again, Kurt, want to thank you for making the drive down and joining us today. Roy, want to thank you for making the flight and joining
Always
us.
love
you
being
got a
here.
longer trip than I do, brother.
Absolutely. In some future episodes, we're going to talk about the minister-elder relationship. We're going to talk about leading through change. But that does it for today's episode of the Sawtooth Podcast, Leadership on the Ledge. Thanks for joining us.